guys, welcome back to our channel. Today we're going to be doing a Marvel debate on whether Marvel Studios should have the rights to all Marvel comic characters. So for example, Spider-Man and its associate characters, and Hulk and its associate characters. So Emily, what team are you going to be on?
I'm saying no, they shouldn't own the rights to all Marvel comic characters.
Grace, what team are you on?
I say yes, Marvel Studios should own all the Marvel characters.
And Ellie?
I'm on the fence. I think they should own.
Ellie, I feel like you're on Grace's team.
I'm not, I promise.
You are.
I'm not.
Do you think Hulk should?
Listen,
Do you
this
think
is
Hulk
what
should?
the debate's going to unhold, okay?
Yeah, we will find out, okay? We will find out what side Ellie really is on.
I am like 100% sure Ellie is on Grace's side. I just see it like Hulk, Spider-Man, like.
We'll find out.
So at the moment, Marvel Studios is owned by Disney, and that's been for quite a while. Since actually 2009. So what we've seen so far is that Disney seemed to aim mostly for PG-13 stuff. But what if we wanted to see movies that were like R-rated, like for example, Deadpool? And so I feel like the only way that we'd have a chance of seeing these R-rated movies and stuff is by the Marvel characters not being owned by Disney. So for example, if we were to want to see a Morbius, which at the moment we're not really sure what it's going to be rated, but it kind of looks like it's going to maybe be R-rated, maybe, I don't know. But that would most definitely probably not be possible if it was owned by Disney, because Disney want to try and keep it like family orientated. All of their stuff is basically stuff that like PG-13 max, I think. I don't think I can think of one project that was R-rated. So I feel like we'd be missing out a lot. So for example, like the Punisher and stuff, I don't think we'd be able to see that in Disney, because the Punisher is very dark. So I feel like the only way was how they did it. And what they did was they lent the character out to Netflix, and then Netflix did a show, then they did another season. So I feel like that was probably the only way we were ever going to see the Punisher, because there is no way I think the Punisher would be incorporated in a movie or a TV show in the MCU that is being produced by Disney. That if they were to, I feel like they would probably make the character lose its characterness. Like the Punisher, we know that he shoots a lot, he kills a lot, he's really violent. And if it was to be done by Disney, because they'd want the rating to be PG-13 or something, they would take away the character's character. They would probably make him less of a killing machine and more child-friendly. I'm not really sure how they'd do it, but I'm sure Disney would find a way. Okay.
I agree, and I do see your point, and I do understand what you mean, because in other departments, other production companies, they will make them exactly how the character is meant to be through the comics. And like I said, I do agree, but in my point of view, so I've been looking at some stuff, and this is what I learned from film and media lesson. There is something called like cultural industries theory by David Hasselhoff. Anyway, so the idea is that so say like you have an idea for a film. That idea is like paper notes, and you throw it on the wall. Whatever sticks is a good idea. So that's kind of like what Sony did. Sony did with Spider-Man. They thought of an idea for Spider-Man, even though they have legally been given rights, and it did fantastic over the Trinities. However, in other companies, such as 21st Century Fox, they did other films such as Daredevil or The Punisher or The Fantastic Four, which wasn't really good. And according to some of the rights, they said that if some of their like films that was originally owned by Marvel didn't go well, then previously they go back to the rights of Marvel, if that makes sense. I think that in film companies are always trying to go up against each other, and it's good because there's always competition. You got DC versus Marvel. Same for the Sony Spider-Man. They tried their own idea for Spider-Man and it worked really well. For Marvel, when they try their own, they doing the same thing but in their own way. I think that because Marvel Studios, they kind of have their own like large idea. It became huge after the MCU has expanded. I think people got more interested to see more characters, like characters that haven't been introduced to the film, to the cinema. Like no one has seen Captain America film before, or Thor, or Iron Man, or even the Avengers. I think people see that more and they see more interest in that, if that makes sense. And Marvel Studios started in 1993, and this was before Spider-Man. There was another company called Marvel Production, which did own all Marvel comics before Sony did Spider-Man or Fantastic Four or Daredevil, anything like that. And they will partner with New World Animation in 1993. And they did other TV shows, so like The Incredible Hulk and Captain America. So they started their own kind of ideal world of Marvel films and shows. When you think, I think Sony did try, like with Spider-Man, but the other shows. So Emily, what I'm trying to say is that I do agree with you. I mean, I do see your point of view, but what I think is that when other companies try different try films based from comics that are from like the same universe, they could they try to stick with it, they try to make it a brilliant film. But when Marvel Studios was created, they and the MCU, like I said, started and expand, people got more interested in it. They see all these amazing characters come together and they want to see more, they want to see interact. And I think that's why Marvel should have more rights. They should have all the rights to all the characters, because that's what the audience want. They want to see all other characters come together.
Yeah, but that doesn't really address the fact that if, for example, Sony were to give up their rights to the Spider-Man characters, then would we just settle for PG-13 all the time? Because that is what I think would happen.
No, but that's, like you said, Marvel is also in connection with Netflix. So
yes, but whether that happens, I don't think that will happen anymore. Because from what we've seen, because it was, the deal was what happened between Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, all of those Marvel Netflix shows, is something happened between Marvel and Netflix. So I doubt Netflix will want to do another Marvel show. So what other way are we gonna get?
No, but say like for Daredevil, like there was a film about it. They tried it, it didn't work out, and then that, like I said before, if that idea didn't work out, then later the rights go back to Marvel, and they made it into a TV show, which was brilliant. Sony did like Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire, and it went well, and the second one went really well, and the third one dropped a bit, and then they stopped, which was okay. But then they started doing the amazing Spider-Man, and while the first one did well, they introduced new characters. The second one dropped bad, like it didn't went as good as they hoped. They I think that kind of, like I said before, if they are given rights to make a film about a character, like Spider-Man, and that idea of that film didn't went really well, then soon those rights are given back to Marvel. So, and I think
Yeah,
that
so if we go from what you're saying, then they would have owned, then Marvel Studios would have taken back Spider-Man by now, but they haven't. Even though The Amazing Spider-Man, both movies were sort of a flop when you compare it to the success of Tom Holland's Spider-Man and Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. So if we take from what you were saying, then they would have taken back the rights to Spider-Man, but that hasn't happened.
Yeah, and think about it. I don't think Sony is ever going to make another film about Spider-Man again. Compared to Marvel, they're going to use him in other films. And like I said, that's what it's about what the audience want. They want to see their favorite characters interact with other great characters like Captain America, Thor, Black Panther, anyone. And I think if Marvel have the rights to own Spider-Man and other characters, that will give a more entertain pathway to the audience to go and watch. That's why I think Marvel should own Spider-Man, because it will give what the audience want, and what they give to the audience, they get back their reputation.
My point to that is, like, why bother? Like, at the moment, what's happening?
Oh, that was hard. Jesus Christ.
Emily, these people who are watching probably might argue against you.
Sure, go ahead. Why bother? Like, when deals can just be made? That is literally what we have been having. Sorry, that's literally what has been happening so far. So how we are seeing Spider-Man in the MCU is because a deal has been struck between Disney and Sony. Same thing with Hulk, same thing with She-Hulk, same thing with Namor if he comes to Black Panther 2, same thing with how Spider-Man and Doctor Strange are going to be in the same movie together in Spider-Man No Way Home. So I agree, because the thing that all of these movie making companies, or TV shows as well, because these make TV shows as well, but the two things is, well, I guess the number one thing is to make profit, which is literally any organization. And to make profit, you have to have an audience. You have to have someone that wants it, right? And that's us. Hence why we actually have these debates. But I think it's so far been working well. Right. I don't see any issues so far. I think people have enjoyed seeing Spider-Man in the MCU coming together, Civil War, Infinity War, a bit of Endgame, and then seeing his standalone movies, which Sony produces with Marvel Studios' help with. So I'm not exactly sure who contributes what, because I don't think there's a lot of information that we do know anyway. I'm pretty sure at one point what I heard was that Sony was creating the film Spider-Man Far From Home. I think it was that one. Maybe it was the first one. And then Disney were doing all the merchandise stuff, but I'm not really sure. But my point is just like, I don't see a point for Marvel Studios to own all the Marvel comic characters when at the moment it's working. We are seeing Hulk. We're going to see She-Hulk. We're seeing Spider-Man, and that's all because of deals that have been made.
I think you're right that because when Marvel Studios was founded and made in 1993, then Spider-Man in 2002 came out and it did really well. I think Marvel still should have the rights because of their link, their background to all the Marvel, because all the company, they made Marvel comics, they did Marvel characters before that, and they did Marvel TV shows in the past. So there's still like I said, a personal link between.
And
so
it's kind of like if they have them as their own characters rather than a deal, will have more opportunities to see the characters in action in different ways with other characters. Because like we'll only get the odd few with deals being struck, and it will only be the ones that they want. But say they want them with, like, Marvel wants them with a different character and Sony's like, no, that could be like really good for us, but we'll never see it. It kind of like decreases opportunities. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I feel like at this point, Spider-Man, the whole franchise, the Spider-Man franchise, is what Sony is literally living on. It is their biggest property. And so if we were to take away Spider-Man, Sony would not exist. They would not be making any money at all. I mean, they will be making films and stuff, but those films are not producing near enough the amount that the Spider-Man movies have made. So what you were saying is basically you want Sony to go extinct.
Okay, not that
That's
dramatically.
basically kind of what you're saying, because that is what would happen.
Not
Wouldn't
that
just-
dramatically.
No, I'm saying that why they may continue because they had the rights in the first place and they're doing really well with the character Spider-Man. And of course, like you said, they're selling great profits to it. But I think Marvel should try to do the same as well. Because like I said, they have a more personal link and because they already had the right, but because I think it will bring out more competition. And that's what we kind of enjoy in the film industry. People like a competition. They're like, oh, who's better, Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter? Or like, who's more greater, the Justice League or the Avengers? That's what they're doing. DC versus Marvel. Everybody loves that. They love the entertainment. They love the fight, the intense. And I think if Sony and Marvel do that, like they make their own version of Spider-Man, if they get their own ideas, obviously not copy from one another, then do it. That's what it's all about. Because Disney is owning a lot of things. They own Marvel and other
Star
stuff.
Wars.
If they own like everything, it'd be boring because no companies will make their own thing and it won't stand up against anyone and it's just be nothing, no competition, no fun, no anything.
So you're
So I think-
supporting my point of view now.
Uh-oh.
No. You said that
Hang on.
Marvel
Can we
should
pause
not
for 2 seconds?
own. You
Is-
said Marvel should not own.
Hold on, Grace. Hold
I'm
on.
saying Marvel should.
Hold on, Grace.
Wait.
Hold on.
Let's just take a second and breathe, because I feel like Emily's about to
Yeah, Emily's about to twist my words.
very aggressive this round, and I feel like it's riling up Grace. So let's just breathe for 2 seconds.
Yeah. So Emily, your point is that Marvel should not own all Marvel characters, especially Spider-Man. I said they should.
Yeah.
Because it will create huge profits. It will increase competition in the film industry, and it will bring out more entertainment for the audience.
But how is that going to increase competition? If Sony give away their rights to Spider-Man, if Universal, I mean, we can not include Universal because we don't know what's going on there. But if we were to just take, for example, Sony, if Sony were to give their rights to Marvel, then where is the competition? Because it would just be Marvel and DC. But at the moment, what competition we're seeing is between the MCU and the Spider-Verse, which is literally what Sony are trying to do. That is why they brought in Venom. That is why they're bringing in Morbius. That is why they're bringing in Kraven the Hunter. They are trying to bring in that competition. They're trying to bring in those characters that they see are doing so well, not the same characters because we haven't seen them, but they're seeing so many different characters that the MCU have incorporated, like Doctor Strange, Ant-Man, that have incorporated that people have never heard about. Only people who read comics and stuff, they've only heard about it, and they're bringing in all these characters and they are seeing how well these characters are doing. And so they're like, oh, we can do the same. And so they're creating competition. I mean, we've heard it. That Spider-Man No Way Home trailer beat the record for the number of views seen. It beat Avengers Endgame. It's competition there. You could just see that is competition. So if we were to have them all join together, or one Marvel family owned by Disney, then we've just lost that competition. I get what other competitions you're talking about. I get that you're talking about the Marvel and DC competition, which it is there. But I feel like I specifically, because I don't really care for DC, and I'm sorry if anyone's watching this. But I mean, there are some good DC projects. But anyway, but no, what I look at is Marvel Studios, Disney owned property stuff, and Spider-Man and their universe. Because I think I've heard even that Sony have changed the name of the Spider-Man universe, because they have their own name. Whilst the Marvel one is called Marvel Cinematic Universe, and Sony have just changed their own name just to incorporate all of these other characters. So they're trying to make this universe thing as well of their own, which is definitely two universes, Marvel comic characters sort of going to war, but not really going to war because there are deals.
Okay, I understand that. But if Marvel never had the rights to Spider-Man, we wouldn't get Spider-Man No Way Home. We wouldn't get that excitement. We wouldn't get Spider-Man in Civil War. We won't get him in Infinity War or Endgame. We won't get any of that. So if you imagine that, how would that lead up to the future? I think that, like, why it's good that Sony and Marvel are trying to make it like a good deal to bring in all the Spider-Mans together for what if it happens in the film in No Way Home.
Okay, can I just ask this question then to both of you then? Do you think the deals are working? Do you think they are working? Yes. Ali?
I think they're working, but with them, we're losing opportunities for future things happening.
No, I can't agree.
Okay, so what was the example that you gave? You said a Spider-Man and should we just say Spider-Man and Ant-Man TV show series? How does that? Yeah, okay, let's just I'd watch it too. Okay, let's just say that. I don't see why Sony wouldn't say yes to that, because they would earn money from that. Disney would earn money from that. I don't see why they wouldn't say yes. The only reason I can see them saying yes is that something's happened between Sony and Disney, which something did happen, but then they made a deal. And so now this deal seems to have really strengthened that ties, because we've heard rumors that Disney Plus is now going to show the Spider-Man movies on there. They're going to show Venom on there whenever the rights that Netflix own. I think Netflix is currently showing the Spider-Man movies on their service. So it really does seem like they have really come together, and it's in Sony's best interest, because the only reason why Tom Holland's Spider-Man is well watched, I think, is because there are so many MCU fans. I think if you were to just have the Spider-Man movies stand alone, I don't think it would be such a big hit. But to see him come into the MCU, interact with Iron Man, see him versing Thanos, all of that stuff, it is really marketed and really sets Sony's Spider-Man characters like up. If we take what Disney have bought over the years, so Disney bought Pixar for $7.4 billion in 2006. Then in 2009, they bought Marvel for $4.24 billion. And then in 2012, they spent $4.05 billion for Lucasfilms. And then they spent recently $71.3 billion to buy Fox. Sony isn't going to give their rights to Spider-Man free. it doesn't make sense for why. Universal aren't going to give their rights to Hulk for free. So Disney are going to have to buy them. I don't know how much the characters would go for. I'm pretty sure Sony would probably drive a really hard bargain. They'll probably say something like $10 billion or something, which is a lot. And so if you take all of this spending that Disney has done, and then if you equal this to the amount of money they made in films, it's going to take forever. They're not earning 7.4 billion per film. So at this point, we are going to put Disney, not bankrupt, because they probably do have the funds and everything, but it's going to put them in a vulnerable state because they're not going to have a lot of money left. And so it's going to be easy for someone like Warner Brothers to just swoop in and go, oh, buying Disney or something. So what I'm saying is that it doesn't make sense, at least at the moment, because Disney have spent so much money buying all of these companies, so all of these things like Fox, Pixar, Marvel over these years, and it doesn't make sense for them to buy Sony or Universal when they've got these deals which seem to be working and they don't have to spend 10 billion, like I said before, for example, to buy Sony.
Like I said in 1993, Marvel Productions became New World Animation, and they set a Marvel TV show. So like the Incredible Hulk, they even did a Captain America one in black and white, I think, or maybe that was like, oh yeah, that was in 1944, the Captain America one. So basically, Marvel did use their characters for like ages before.
Sorry, hold on. The Captain America one was 1944.
Yeah.
How is that? Because the Captain America stuff is based on World War, right?
Yeah.
And isn't it like in the 40s when they were actually writing these comics, right?
Well, maybe because they didn't exactly copy them like page to page. I don't know exactly the story, but that's what I learned, which surprised me as well. Now you told me, but I think, but what I'm saying is that
sorry.
Besides, let's put that as a mystery. But Marvel have been trying, like with TV shows and animated shows, like for the Spider-Man example. I think like if they have been bankrupt, and yes, they probably have to sell the stuff, I think they still like have a link, a more kind of bit more right. It's like if you gave your child up for adoption and then the biological mother have to come back and check that child, even though they gave up their rights, they still have a right to see their biological child to know the same. I'm just trying to make you guys understand, because apparently I'm not making any sense here. So yes, Sony has the right, but I also think Marvel also has the right, because it's originally from them. They may have lost their characters, lost their money, the profit, and have to sell their characters, but they still belong to them.
Yeah, the rights do sort of belong to them, but the rights to produce films and TV shows to make it appear in film, in media, is owned by Sony. Yeah, I get what you mean, but that is why Kevin Feige and I guess when Stanley was alive, that is why they would sit in and be producers, executive producers, or whatever. They would have some say in how these films were being produced. So there is still a touch of Marvel Studios, as you put it, sort of, that is being put into creating these films. So, you know what? I think it actually has been very beneficial to the MCU not owning the rights to Spider-Man at that point when the MCU was being made, not owning the rights to X-Men, because these are the very popular Marvel characters. Yeah, so characters like Iron Man or even the group Avengers weren't actually very popular. And this is actually how the MCU started. It started with Iron Man, something that most people probably hadn't even heard of. It started from that. And so from not owning these really big characters like X-Men and Spider-Man, we really got a spotlight on these small characters, which have grown to be big, and we've grown to really love them. Like, I don't think there is anybody who isn't like, oh my God, Iron Man, or oh my God, Black Panther. So without having the rights to X-Men and Spider-Man, Marvel Studios is actually really, it's done really well. I think it just goes to say that you don't really need these big characters to make a great movie or to get enjoyment for audiences. So like if Marvel Studios back in 2009 or whenever were to have the rights to Spider-Man, then I think it's safe to say we would have had a Spider-Man movie, right? If we were not to include the Tobey Maguire ones and whatever, we would have gotten a Spider-Man movie first in that universe, because they would have been like biggest character, most people are going to love him, and then they would have stuck around with the big characters, so Spider-Man, X-Men, Captain America, Hulk. Those would have been the big characters. So our MCU would look very different to what we have it now. We have Guardians of the Galaxy, which is actually even like wasn't even well known. They were really scared to try out Guardians of the Galaxy because they were like, no one's going to know these people. No one's going to like them. You know what? It's my favorite film now. I think it just goes to say that it has actually been very beneficial not having X-Men and Spider-Man at the beginning, at least. I mean, now it has become beneficial because people are seeing those links and stuff, and and people are liking it. People are liking that the appearance of Robert Downey Jr. in Spider-Man: Homecoming. I think they're all going to love the fact that Doctor Strange is going to appear in Spider-Man: No Way Home and act sort of like a mentor, kind of take over that role that Iron Man had. I think people are really liking these crossovers. So yeah, I just think it's been very beneficial.
I agree, yeah. Like I said, like, so if Marvel did own all Marvel characters, it would be beneficial to see different kind of characters cross over. So like Jessica Jones or Captain Marvel come together, or Punisher and Deadpool. It would be very interesting. And that's what and that's also, that's another thing that I kind of agree with you in stuff for like in the industry, because what they do is like they do like kind of like trying to reduce risk in films, trying to impress the audiences, trying to attract more viewers, and by doing that they add more bigger stars in. They get the right genre for the film. So like you said, Guardians of the Galaxy, because people never heard of that, they gave out like their best stars in it. So like Chris Pratt, is it Pat or Pratt? Yeah. And the genre, it was action packed, but it was also funny. It was different, but it was also brilliant and all that. And I think so. If I link it to Spider-Man now, I think they introduce a more younger and more kind of relatable character like Tom Holland, because the MCU is made for like young audience, like for kids and for young adults like us. And I think bringing like that Spider-Man character kind of like lures us in. Like we all, well, except for you, Emily, but we all kind of got intrigued because it's kind of our area, and it definitely maximized their audience.
Okay, but do you agree with what I said was that if the MCU, sorry, if when the MCU was starting, Marvel Studios owned the rights to all of their characters, and do you think they would have started off with perhaps a Spider-Man or a Hulk or an X-Men or a Captain America film?
Well, technically, they did started the Hulk when they did the Incredible Hulk after
But it was Iron Man first. But if you were to go back to my question, so what do you think? Would they have started off with one of those films?
with Spider-Man.
With it Spider-Man, X-Men, or something, because they know that these characters are of course going to be big hits because people love them already. Because these are the most.
Okay,
I know my dad literally loves watching the Hulk TV shows like from the past, and he's on going on about it. He's like, Hulk's my favorite character, and I'm like, okay.
Okay.
Like,
if Sony's Spider-Man's never happened.
so if all we've had, so if we had to take 2009, that first MCU movie, Marvel Studios owns all the rights, forget about Sony, what would that first movie be? Do you think it would be one of the big names that we've heard?
Yes, I would have said they definitely had Spider-Man.
Okay.
But hold on, I'm just hold on. What I'm thinking of now is that because Marvel Studios began like in 1993 and they've been planning like a lot for phase 1, 2, and 3. They probably think they're planning on getting not just Spider-Man but everyone out in the MCU. So they've been planning the Avengers, in the Infinity Stones, Endgame, everything. So what I'm trying to say is that yes, Spider-Man may have been on top of the list, but they probably had like other plans as well to go along. Like I said, they've been planning a lot about what they wanted to do. So maybe they were saving best for last.
But I personally doubt that they would have shown Iron Man or Ant-Man or Doctor Strange so soon. I feel like that would have come like 20 years probably later, because they would have really focused on the X-Men, because there's so many different characters in the X-Men. They would have focused on Spider-Man, they would have focused on Captain America, they would have focused on Hulk. That would have been our phase 1. Phase 2 would have been those second movies, and I'm not sure if there would be an Avengers movie. Maybe there'll be something similar. Phase 3 would be something similar, maybe a few new characters somewhere jotted in somewhere, perhaps an Iron Man somewhere. But I really think if they were to start off with Spider-Man would have been the biggest character of the MCU. But if I was to ask you now, who is that biggest character in the MCU? Who would it be?
Iron Man.
We would not have had that. It would have been. He is literally. I don't know, Ellie. Do you agree? Do you think Iron Man is the big face of the MCU?
Yeah, probably.
So I think it would have been completely different if it was Spider-Man. It would have been Spider-Man that we would have said there.
Yeah, but there was nothing wrong about it. That would have been. It wouldn't be wrong.
It wouldn't be wrong. But what I'm saying is, we would have missed out on so many movies. I get what you mean. They have a plan and everything, but I don't think that plan would have included Guardians of the Galaxy. They only created these films because at the moment they don't own the rights to Spider-Man. Sorry, at that moment in time. So whenever that was.
Just because they didn't have the right to Spider-Man does not mean they would have done anything else. So even if they did make a Spider-Man film, they could have made other films. They could have still made the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, but what I'm saying was, if they had the rights, if they didn't have the rights to Spider-Man, and they didn't have the rights to the X-Men, they didn't have the rights to, I don't know who else, that whoever else has just come in recently, then they would have had no other alternative but to start with characters like Ant-Man and Doctor Strange, because those are the only characters that they have in their folder.
Guys, make sure you like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, let us know in the comments what other debates we should do, whether that be Marvel or Disney or other ones. Make sure you check out other ones, such as our latest debate on Harry Potter. Does being sorted into Slytherin mean you are a bad person? And other ones as well. So hope you guys enjoy this. Let us know what you think about it, and see you guys soon.
Bye.
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 Bye.